Well, hello there, and welcome to Medicare Made Plain, brought to you by AssureSource. We really appreciate you stopping by today and talking about the Inflation Reduction Act. You know, there's an old adage that says that there are two things in this world we can count on. One is death, the other is taxes. But I'd like to add at least one other thing to that list, and that is change. Change is an inevitable part of the world that we live in. And especially in the Medicare world. However, change in the Medicare world normally happens in kind of slow, incremental steps. But this year, due to the Inflation Reduction Act, we saw some sweeping changes that had major effects on especially your prescription drug coverage under Medicare. So we'll talk about the good things that happened with those changes, as most changes do have good parts about it, but we'll also talk about maybe a couple of unintended consequences to keep your eyes open for so that they don't affect you. Well, again, thanks for coming, and we'll get into our subject today of the Inflation Reduction Act. So what was the Inflation Reduction Act? The Inflation Reduction Act was a law that went into place in 2022 that was designed to put money into clean energy. It was also designed to help stem inflation in the United States, but there were many other things attached to that law, and one thing was some major changes that happened to Medicare. So what were these big changes to Medicare? There's three of them, and those are the ones we're going to talk about today. The first one is no more donut hole. You may have heard this called, the technical term was the coverage gap. Okay. The second one is a maximum out of pocket for prescriptions, and it's $2,000. Talk a little bit more about that in just a second. And then the third one is going to be monthly billing on drugs. And again, we'll explain that a little bit more in just a moment. So let's get into each one of these in a little bit more detail. The first one is no more donut hole. If you've ever talked to somebody who has experienced the donut hole, they would talk about how if their plan had a deductible, they would go to the pharmacy in January, their drugs would be pretty expensive, then they would get less expensive, and then there would be a time period, usually toward the end of the year, where their drugs would get a lot more expensive. Well, that became very hard for people to understand. As you can understand, very hard for them to plan for as far as how much they're going to be paying for their medicine. And so in a lot of situations, people were making decisions on whether to buy their medicine or get the food that they need. And so what the Inflation Reduction Act did is it completely got rid of the donut hole and then added in the second big change that we're going to talk about in just a second. The second big change that they added to prescription drug coverage for Medicare is a $2,000 maximum out-of-pocket for all drugs on your formulary. When we talk about formulary, those are just drugs that are included in your prescription drug plan that you've signed up for Medicare. So as long as your drugs are on the formulary, the most you'll ever pay out of your pocket, no matter how expensive those drugs are, is going to be $2,000. This has been a life-changing thing for a lot of folks. I have clients that are on drugs that are $15,000, $16,000, even one that's $27,000 a month retail cost. It doesn't matter what any of their drugs cost now, as long as it's on their formulary, the most they'll pay for the entire year for all of their medicine, and in your situation too, is going to be $2,000. So this is a very good thing that happened with the Inflation Reduction Act. The third big change that happened with the Inflation Reduction Act is monthly billing for prescription cost. So now you have the opportunity that instead of when you need your medicine going to your local pharmacy, no matter where that would be, and paying for your medicine when you go to the pharmacy, you now can set up monthly billing with your prescription drug company. So how that works is, no matter what your drug cost is, let's say they figure your drug cost to be $1,200 for the entire year. I went to school to be a history teacher, so let's make the math just as easy as possible. So it's $1,200 for all of your medicine for the whole year. You take your prescription, you go to your pharmacy. When you get your drugs, you don't actually pay the pharmacy. You then get a bill in the mail from your prescription drug company that takes that total amount, $1,200, and divides it up by 12, making it $100 a month. So you'll get a bill from your prescription drug company for that $100. Now, the unintended consequence to this is that you have to pay that drug cost bill or your insurance itself will be canceled. So if you're like a lot of folks and you don't always open your mail, and there's lots of people like that, you're going to want to make sure that you open your mail from your prescription drug company and pay that bill on a monthly basis, because if you get disenrolled from your prescription plan, you may have to wait till January the 1st of next year to get back on a new one. So does that mean that everyone will need to sign up for monthly billing on their prescription drug plan? No, in fact, I think a little bit less than half of folks will need to. If you have mostly generic drugs or you use mail order pharmacy and you're happy with how that works, there's no need for you to sign up for monthly billing. However, we do know there are some situations where folks will probably need to sign up for monthly billing, and we're going to talk about two of the big ones in this video today. The first one is, depending on your plan may have a large prescription deductible. Now, not all plans have deductibles, but many of them do. And if you're in a situation where you would have to start out the year by paying a large deductible, and then everything would get less expensive, and that is going to put you in a financial bind, even if your cost is just $1,000 or $1,200, a lot of times it's easier to come up with $100 a month than it is $500 or $600, and then $50 or $60 a month after that. So that might be somebody that needs to sign up for monthly billing if they have a large prescription deductible. So what's the second situation where somebody may need to sign up for monthly billing? This one is pretty self-explanatory, and it's anybody who is on expensive drugs. If you're on a drug that's very expensive and you know for sure that you're going to hit that $2,000 maximum out of pocket, you may find that it's easier for you to take that $2,000, divide it by 12, pay a little bit less than $200 a month for your drugs, than to have to pay a large deductible and a bigger monthly bill around the year. So again, if you're on expensive drugs and it's going to hit that maximum out of pocket of $2,000, it may make sense for you to sign up for monthly billing. So what does all of this mean to you? It's going to mean a few things. First off, you're going to need to look at your situation, everything from the drugs that you're on to your financial situation, and see whether it's going to be right for you to sign up for monthly billing. The second thing, and the thing that I kind of see happening quite a bit now, is that because of this maximum of out-of-pocket of $2,000, there's an idea that it doesn't really matter what prescription drug plan that you go on. It still really matters what company that you go with. The reason is that there are still situations where a company may charge $85 for one drug and another company may charge $10 or $15 for the same drug. So it's going to be really important to do a good comparison of all of the plans in your area and how they pay on your particular set of drugs. Which leads me to, what if you need more help? Maybe you're worried about whether or not you should do monthly billing. Maybe you're concerned about that you're paying too much for your prescription drugs right now and you might not be on the right plan. If you find yourself in that situation, or you just have more questions about the Inflation Reduction Act, feel free to reach out to us at AssureSource. We're always here to help you, and we never charge for anything that we do. There's a few different ways for you to get in contact with us down in the description of this video. Choose whichever one that you'd like to do. Those will come to me, and then I will assign your situation to the agent that's closest to you and best equipped to take care of whatever problem that you have. Well, again, we thank you for stopping by our little place of business. We hope you learned something today, and we hope that you have a blessed rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.